Okay, so quick review of the sensory areas, right? So we've got our sensory over-responsivity, so responding more than you would expect to a certain sensory experience or for a longer period of time to, or both, to a certain sensory experience that would otherwise not be detected or bothersome to another person. And as I'm giving this presentation, I'm thinking very much about a mother-child relationship that I've been working on in an intensive. The daughter's 18 years old, and they talk a lot about, she has a very over-responsive profile and the mom does not, and how it's very difficult for the mother to think that it's real for her daughter, right? That these sensitivities that she has to sensation is what's causing her general annoyance in the house, right? So we have this emotional experience of being anxious, being annoyed, being just bothered, as a baseline of discomfort when we have a sensory over responsive profile. Then our sensory under responsive, right? We're responding less than what's expected to a sensory experience. And, a more classic presentation is that this person is sort of in their own world, right? And they're slower to respond to social bids and slower to respond to opportunities for sensory experiences around them. In this same family unit, there is a brother who is 12, and he falls under this category, right? So he, the daughter in this family unit talks about how he's oblivious, right, to all of the disruption that is in the family, and that she's jealous of that because he doesn't deal with this sensitivity that she deals with. And how that jealousy of different sensory experiences will then kind of lend itself to who likes who more within the parent-child dynamic. And the perception that the daughter has is, I am consistently annoyed by the sensory experiences that my mom provides in the house, and he is not, because he doesn't even hear them. He doesn't even see them. And so she likes him more, right? Because he's less annoyed at her than I am. And it's been a fascinating process to help them all understand their own profiles and have something to name in this dynamic without it being each other, right? So I'm jealous of you. Now is I'm jealous of the way you process what mom gives, right? And it's been really fun dynamic to work with this family to help them phrase things differently, like, you are annoying, or that sound you're making is annoying, and how that feels different to the mother-child relationship. Okay, so our sensory discrimination things that we're considering. So I know that these are things that we've probably all thought about when we're thinking about kids, right, that we work with, or maybe your own child. But what we're trying to think about here is, how could your own sensory systems be impacting the way that you interact with your child, right? So kind of like the example I just gave with the mom sensory system, being one that is, she doesn't necessarily need input, but the typical things that she feels like she does every day and doesn't know, doesn't think about, is what's setting off, this vibe in the family. So our sensory discrimination is the ability to interpret the qualities, right? So we're talking about duration, frequency, timing, intensity, and spatial orientation. So the details about sensory information, which lends us to understand our postural stability and control, the ability to maintain a stable base of support, and that stability supports mobility, and also just this grounded feeling in space. So a lot of our emotional experience when we have our postural stability difficulties comes from fatigue, right? Just being very tired from working so hard against this general weakness in our posture system. And then finally, the last thing we're going to review quickly is this sensory-based motor area of praxis. So planning and sequencing of actions, having an idea, being given a direction, developing a plan of action, doing that, and then adapting our plans when we need to. Okay, and then sensory seeking and craving, right? I like to talk about this as yes, this is seemingly that the individual is seeking these sensory experiences, whether they're moving or touching or bumping or crashing or smelling and licking and, making sounds. But really to take a step back and understand it as a behavior that tells us that we need to know something more, right? There are other reasons for sensory seeking behaviors, such as being very anxious from having an over response and being fidgety and wiggly and moving around because we're anxious, or having difficulty finding a place where you feel stable in your body. So you're moving around a lot because you're not able to find that stable base of support.